Hello everybody, Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am bringing you kind of an already established idea that Fates Collide came through and just made better, and that is a Mega Manectric Jolteon deck, but now is able to include Glaceon from Fates Collide. And before I get into this deck, just a reminder that if you like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and maybe subscribe. It helps us out a lot and lets us do more for you guys. But anyway, like I said, this deck was already an idea that was pretty well established and rather successful, and that was Mega Manectric and Jolteon. Now, everybody knows what Mega Manectric does, and if you don't, it's been around since Phantom Forces, and for 2 energy, Turbo Boat does 110, and you can attach 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon, so hits for a solid amount of damage and lets you accelerate energy to your bench. And it was already paired with the Jolteon EX from Generations with Swift, but that really isn't the attack. The attack that you want to focus on is Flash Ray. For 1 lightning and a DCE, does 70 damage, and the effect during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from basic Pokemon. Now, that is really, really cool. It's basically Pyroar's ability, but in an attack. And I mean, this deck was solid, but there were a few flaws in it, aka Jolteon could be just shut down completely by any evolutions, and also you could Lysander around and whatnot. However, Fates Collide just came out, and there is a card that really just kind of completes this combo, and that is Glaceon EX with the Crystal Ray attack for a water and a DCE, does 70, and during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from evolution Pokemon. So, I mean, you have Jolteon to cover basic Pokemon, you have Glaceon to cover evolution Pokemon. These two are really just kind of the WOMBO combo of Pokemon TCGO, and then you have Manectric to accelerate to them, and it's really just kind of a, oh, are you running a basic Pokemon centered deck? Well, then you use Jolteon. If your opponent's running Evolution, then you use Glaceon. And basically the rest of these cards are just to help get these guys out and active and attacking as soon as possible. As for the rest of the Pokemon, we're running 2 Shaman, just, I mean, help set up. Well, haha, I didn't, pun was not intended right there, but Shaman just lets you draw some more cards, so you want to run Shaman. And then I'm running also 2 Hoopa EXs. I mean, this deck, there is literally a single Pokemon out of all 16 that isn't an EX. So I'm running 2 of the Hoopa just to get everything out. And I'm running 2 as opposed to the normal 1, just because sometimes Hoopa is prized, and sometimes you even start with Hoopa. Well, having another one lets you get some more stuff out more consistently. And finally, we are running 1 Regice with the Resistance Blizzard, 70 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon by Pokemon EX. So basically, if your opponent's running a basic center deck, use Jolteon. If your opponent's running a evolution center deck, use Glaceon. And if your opponent's running EXs, you can use Regice. So I mean, really, this deck just has a lot of different things that it can use to just kind of shut your opponent down, not let them hit you. And obviously there are ways around it, like Lysandering and stuff like that, but things like Hex Maniac actually won't affect this deck, and it's actually really, really, really fun. I've tried it out a couple times, and Jolteon has just put a solid stop to Night March in a few instances, so that was pretty cool. As for the items, we are running 2 Battle Compressor just to get the energy into our discard pile, as well as the supporters if you need them. Manectric's attack, basically, I mean, well, not basically, it does get basic energy from the discard pile, so Battle Compressor is just a great way to get those in there, ready to go. We're running 1 Escape Rope, I mean, just as a get-out-of-jail-free card of sorts, and also as a makeshift Lysander. We have 2 things that have Free Treat, so using an Escape Rope can put your opponent into something they don't normally want to, and then you can just go into something that has Free Treat and then go back into it. I'm running Sacred Ash as opposed to Super Rod in this deck, just because Manectric gets the energy out of the discard pile, so you want to keep it there. Therefore, Sacred Ash is just better in this situation unless you get some Pokemon back into your deck, things that you can just basically search out with Hoopa later on. We're also running 1 Switch. I mean, I like running Escape Rope and Switch, just because, I mean, you run into things that get paralyzed. Maybe you start with a Hoopa, and you want to get it out of the active without having to attach 2 for its retreat cost, so those are just great working together. 4 Trainer's Mail to help with the consistency of the deck, for Ultra Ball to get everything out, and it's so awesome with this type of deck. An Ultra Ball turns into a couple Pokemon and a Shaman in, like, just through that one Ultra Ball. Just grab a Hoopa, grab a Jolteon, grab a Manectric, slap both of those down, also grab a Shaman, and then you're drawing until you have 6 cards in your hand. So, I mean, Ultra Ball is just amazing in this deck, and also it's used to get some energy in the discard pile, which helps with Turbo Bolt even more. We're also running 4 VS Seeker just to reuse all of our supporters, 1 AZ to pick up the Hoopa and the Shaman, 1 Hex Maniac, 1 Lysander, because Lysander is a great card. Hex Maniac just because you have the basic Pokemon that are, well, I mean, not the basic Pokemon. You have things like, well, Trevenant, so that allows us to use items. You have Pyroar, that shuts it down and lets us knock it out in one hit. And then a 3-3 of N and Sycamore just for draw support. I mean, I still haven't figured out the best line to use with these guys, and this line seems to be working for me, so I'm just rolling with it. We're running 2 Rough Seas, could run 3, but it's really just more of a counter stadium and allows our Pokemon to heal up in the rare event that they get attacked. Running 2 Fighting Fury Belt because we have 2 Jolteon, 2 Glaceon, so Fighting Fury Belt just gives them more longevity and lets them hit for a little more damage. 3 Manectric Spirit Link, just because we're only running 3 Mega Manectric. And then 7 Lightning and 4 Water for the attacks of our Pokemon. So this is a really, really fun deck. It has great combinations, and I am done rambling, so let's just go ahead and see this deck in action. Alrighty, we have found one against Enso 1 with a Dark and Psychic deck, but it doesn't look like he's running any Shaman, so I mean, I guess that's something relatively positive, but I have no idea what type of deck this is, so I'll really have to wait and see what type of Pokemon he starts off with to know what I need to go for, whether I need to go for the Jolteon or the Glaceon. Let's see, can we go first? Yes, we do. That is great. I mean, this deck doesn't necessarily, I mean, I get it kind of minds going second. I take that back, and I start with a Hoopa. Why? I have so many other Pokemon that I could start with, but I start with a Hoopa. Ugh, that's horrible. I would rather start with a Shaman than start with a Hoopa. But, this is bad. I mean, hopefully I'll be able to, hopefully I can get like an Ultra Ball or something off of this. There we go. That's better. And then if I can get an AZ, that would be even much better. Actually, you know what? I will take the Escape Rope. Yeah, that is a good thing to start off with. Let's go ahead and Ultra Ball to grab, I think a Manectric, a Jolteon, and a Glaceon, maybe? Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to go for right now. Let's just go ahead and grab the Glaceon, the Jolteon. Oh, no, not the Glaceon. I want to grab a Hoopa to grab those guys. And if my other Hoopa was prized, you would have just seen a single tear roll down my cheek. But yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Grab 3 Pokemon EX, grab a Manectric, grab a Jolteon, and I think do I want to grab a Glaceon? Because I don't think Zorua will be that much of a pain, so I think what I'm going to do is grab another Manectric. Yeah, because then I can play the Spirit Link, switch into it, and then just Sycamore away the rest of my hand. Let's go ahead and do that, and that. Put this onto this guy, go ahead and Escape Rope into this Manectric, and then just go for a Sycamore to get some more cards and hopefully a way to attach energy. There we go. Actually, that's something I can kind of work with. Let's go ahead and do that. Go ahead and Battle Compressor, get some water energy into the discard pile. I think 1, 2, and then 1 lightning energy just because. Yeah, because I have the energy in my hand, and I think I'm just going to end my turn right there. Hopefully I can come into some way to get a Mega Manectric. That way I can power up the Jolteon and knock out this Zorua next turn. Actually, unless my opponent... Okay, well, I will be able to knock out the Zorua regardless, just because I have enough stuff in my hand to where I can Assault Laser at least. And if my opponent doesn't have another Pokemon, then that is just going to immediately be the game, unless he red cards us. Well, I mean, he red carded us into something even better. Oh, that's hilarious. So, I mean, we just win. Yeah, my opponent just forfeits. We don't even get to attack, but, I mean, this was a great setup. I don't think our opponent would have won, even if he managed to get other stuff out, but that obviously doesn't count, and I'm just going to go ahead and try to find another match with this deck. Alrighty, we have found one against Pokemon Turina. with a water and normal deck, so I'm assuming that this is some type of Greninja variant, meaning that Hexmaniac and Glaceon will be the way to go in this game to win, and I will have to conserve my VS Seekers. And speaking of Glaceon, we could have started with it, but I didn't think that was the best option, especially because I do have a Jolteon that has free treat, and if I can somehow get, well, I mean, that's one way to get it. Let's slap the Muscle Band onto, I think or not the Muscle Band, the Fighting Fury Belt onto the Glaceon. No, Jolteon, or just nothing at all. Yeah, let's just go ahead and do that. Play the Energy, go ahead and Hoopa to grab Shaman, and I think Shaman, Manectric, and I think grab 2 Manectrics is the play to make. Put an Energy on a Manectric. Yeah, I think that'll be the way to go for this turn. Play that there. Go ahead and Shaman, get some more cards, and hope that we can get a... Well, we get a Manectric Spirit Link. If only we had a way of getting a Mega Manectric. So what I'm going to do this turn is just, I think, Hexmaniac. Yeah, because I will be able to knock out a Froakie next turn, and alright, we're in an okay position because my opponent won't be able to play Shaman if he runs them, and hopefully my opponent just doesn't have like a Wally plus a Water Energy, because that would just make a single tear roll down my cheek. And in this position, I'm actually in an okay spot, I think. Okay, so it looks like my opponent will just go for probably another Froakie. Yeah, that's what he is doing. He's probably gonna, yeah, he's gonna maybe power it up on the bench. I'm kind of wanting, if I could get a Sycamore this turn, that would be, well, sick. Pun actually completely intended. But I do have to conserve my VS Seekers very, very much so, because they will be able to get me Hexmaniacs that will shut down the Froakies. And if I get a Mega Manectric this turn, I think I might just... I get a Trainer's Mail. Can that get me something I can work with? No, it cannot, because it will just grab me another Manectric Spirit Link. Ugh, that's gross. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and retreat into Manectric, and then just go for an Assault Laser to knock this Froakie out, and then kind of hope that my opponent doesn't have anything next turn. Well, he obviously does if he just sends out the Froakie. I do want a Mega Manectric next turn. That's ideal. That is exactly what I want. I mean, I would have preferred it last turn, but my opponent will just be able to water duplicates, and then here's where things will start to get interesting. Well, at least he only had 2 of them, so that's one less thing to worry about. Oh, that is great to see. Let's just go ahead and play that down onto the Mega Manectric. Go ahead and put this Manectric Spirit Link here, and then I think play the Fighting Fury Belt on this guy and go for... Do I want to knock out the Miltank, or do I just want to take out a Froakie? Or a Frogadier, rather. I think my play is to try to take out a Frogadier and then put the energy onto Jolteon or Manectric. Or Glaceon, even. I think I'm going to do Jolteon just because Miltank's something that could be a pain. So let's just go ahead and knock that guy out. Won't get to accelerate any energy, but you know what? That is okay, I hope. We do get a Battle Compressor, so that means we will be able to Professor Sycamore if we want, and so get a Wally. What I might do is try to Lysander in the Frogadier on the bench, because I want to knock that thing out immediately. And my opponent will be able to hit me for some decent damage, but I want to eliminate the number of Frogadier that Greninja that he can get into play. And what I am just going to do is power up another Manectric. Let's go ahead and go for a Battle Compressor, get some energy into the discard pile to power up our other stuff. One, and then I think where's a Sycamore? Let's put a Sycamore somewhere in here. Yeah, I think a Sycamore will definitely be my last option. I won't be able to knock out this Greninja, but I will be able to knock out this Frogadier, meaning that he will at most get 1 Greninja break, and I will be able to also get the energy onto my Pokemon. So let's go ahead and do that. I think put both of them onto the Probably onto the Jolteon. Yeah, that's just fine. Have the Jolteon ready to go. And if my opponent has some way of knocking my Manectric out, that's okay, because I will be able to Sycamore for some cards next turn. And okay, he does get the Greninja break, meaning that this Manectric will more than likely go down this turn. Yeah, because I know my opponent has at least one energy in his hand. There we go. There's that. And yep, okay, so Manectric will go down. And my opponent even had a Shauna. Huh, must have top-decked that one. But he's just going to go for, okay, Sacred Ash, get these guys back. And I kind of hope that I'm in a position where I hope I'm in a position where it doesn't completely matter that we started off the way we did, because I think, goes for a Moonlight Slash, able to knock out Manectric. And one of the problems with this deck is that it can't get those big one-hit knockouts that you sometimes need against decks like this. Like, it can't one-shot a Greninja. There is no way that it is able to do that. Let's go ahead and Trainer's Mail, see what else there is. Nothing that I want to get right now, but let's go ahead and get a Sycamore. Hated to use my VS Seeker on that, but I mean, you do what you have to, especially when I can do this, put this guy down, go ahead and retreat, and then power up another Mega Manectric in the back. I don't want to play the Rough Seas just yet because he would be able to benefit from it, so let's go ahead and go for that. Put 2 energy onto, I think, the Glaceon, just to have that powered up and ready to go. The Manectric actually would have been a pretty good option as well, just because I could have Assault Lasered for 120, which, I mean, is pretty significant in terms of this matchup. But I'm hoping at this point my opponent doesn't have a way. I don't think there is a way that Greninja can knock me out. Greninja Miltank can knock me out, so I think I'm in a pretty solid position, because, I mean, he can do the max he can do. Okay, so he does go for the Giant Water Shuriken here, hit my Manectric for some good damage. That is just fine. And then he's going to be able to hit for 100 at most. Yeah, I think that my math is right. He'll be able to hit for 100 damage at the most, and then I have Rough Seas, I have N. I mean, I'm in a pretty solid position to where I don't think it necessarily makes that much of a difference about what I do next turn. And I can even retreat into Jolteon so that Miltank cannot attack. So let's just go ahead and Rough Seas, get that off of the Manectric, and then I can retreat into the Jolteon, play the energy, I think, onto the Glaceon. And do I want to end? I mean, it'll give my opponent slightly less cards. I think that's what I want to do. Yeah, let's go ahead and end. Get my opponent down to a few less cards, and I actually draw some pretty awesome stuff. So, alright, I'm okay with this. Let's go ahead and Trainer's Mail, get a Sacred Ash or an Ultra Ball. I think I'm going to go for, actually, what's in my discard pile? Just a Manectric and a Mega Manectric. Actually, my opponent just concedes. Okay, that's fine. I would have been able to knock out the Greninja break anyway with a, a Flash Ray from Jolteon, and then I could have taken 2 knockouts before my opponent was able to set up again. So this deck is very, very fun. I mean, it shuts down your opponent, and I'm going to go ahead and see if I can try to find one more. Alrighty, we have found one against the Mana Foda with, it looks like a Milotic Night March deck. So we lose the coin flip. Well, I mean, we might get a go first based on what Night March likes to do, and yep, we do. So if I can get a Jolteon going, then that will be just completely amazing, because that will mean that Night March just gets shut down, and I have to avoid benching as many Pokemon as possible and just try to keep them in my hand. So get a Manectric Spirit Link, play that down, go ahead and Trainer's Mail. Well, I mean, I wish I could grab the Jolteon, but unfortunately we can't, so let's just play the energy onto the Manectric, go for a Sycamore, have to get rid of a Mega Manectric, but it shouldn't be the end of the world, especially because we get this type of start, and I think that will just be it for the turn. Yep, let's just end the turn right there. Hopefully I draw an energy off of my first turn, and my opponent will need 8 Night Marchers to knock out my Manectric. I mean, which isn't unheard of, but it's hopefully highly unlikely that it happens. And then I will be able to... Okay, so my opponent grabs a Lysander off the Trainer's Mail. That is interesting. I guess he might try to buy a turn by Lysandering in another Manectric, which... I mean, hindsight 2020, I might not have wanted to put down, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, you still want to... Okay, so he just decides to get rid of the Dimension Valley and the Lysander for a Shaman. I'm really hoping that my opponent doesn't get much this turn, because if he... Okay, so he will be able to Shaman... I guess Puzzle of Time, what's he grabbing? Unless he has 2 in his hand, which he might grab the Ultra Ball and the Trainer's Mail. But, I mean, it's good. Okay, so he just rearranges the top 3 cards of his deck. I don't know why you would do that just then. Because, I mean, you're able to just get those 3 anyway. I would feel like you would save that for the end of a turn. And I'm hoping my opponent really doesn't have a way of getting 8 Night Marchers into the discard pile. I mean, that's definitely possible. But I hope that it's unlikely enough to where... Okay, so my opponent just Night Marches for nothing. Wow, that is... phenomenal for us. So let's just go ahead and play that down, play the Mega Manectric, and hopefully, yeah, so we're in a pretty great spot. If I can find a way to discard more energy just like that, then my Jolteon can hit for some more damage, and then I think I'm going to go ahead and grab a Lysander, throw that into the discard pile, play the Manectric Spirit Link onto this guy, and then go for a Turbo Bolt, knock out this Pumpkaboo, and then get, well, energy onto a Jolteon. I mean, Jolteon has free treat. I have a switch in hand, so even if my opponent Lysander's out the other Manectric, that doesn't really matter that much because I will be able to bring it back up. And I think I actually have the ideal board state for a match against Night March. And my opponent does just... Yeah, see, I don't know why he used his Puzzle of Time as early as he did, because with Shaman, you'd be able to draw it anyway. And it looks like my opponent might just be going for... Okay, so he didn't have much in his hand. But hopefully my opponent doesn't get anything else down, because that would just be, I mean, a quick match against Night March would be great. And I think I want to get a Trainer's Mail, grab a Fighting Fury Belt, and ideally, like, the ideal board state against Jolteon is a lone Jolteon that is fully powered up, because a way around the whole Jolteon Flash Ray lock is to be able to Lysander other things in and knock them out. So, I mean, this way I'm forcing my opponent to use a Lysander, but at the same time, I don't even want to give my opponent that option. Actually, what I can do next turn is just immediately knock out the Shaman on the bench, Lysander that in, depending on what he goes for. So I think I have a really good board position regardless. Get a Float Stone, puts it onto the Pumpkaboo. I think... So, okay, I'm immediately going to play the Rough Seas. I'm going to Lysander in the Shaman. Yeah, let's go ahead and play the Rough Seas. Go ahead and go for that, rather. Let's go ahead and Ultra Ball away the... I think I'll Ultra Ball away the... Let's first see what I can Trainer's Mail, see what I get. Get a Fighting Fury Belt, that is great. That is actually kind of ideal. Let's go ahead and put that there. I think play this right here. And then retreat into my Jolteon. Ultra Ball... No. Let's go ahead and Lysander in the Shaman and knock it out with a Flash Ray. That way my opponent has to have a Lysander in order to be able to, avoid the... work his way around the Jolteon, and then that way he won't be able to use a supporter, and then I still have a fully powered up Mega Manectric in the back end. So I think I'm in a very good position. Well, I know I'm in a very good position because everything has free treat. If he somehow paralyzes something, I don't know how that would be possible, but I have a switch in hand. I can Ultra Ball for a Mega Manectric to evolve this guy if it gets Lysandered out. So I think my state is just very, very good and commanding. That's the power of this deck. Like, if I was against an evolution deck, like you saw previously, I could use Glaceon, even though I didn't end up using Glaceon, but that was because I don't really consider Greninja that much of an evolution deck, just because it doesn't function the way an evolution deck normally does. Normally the goal of evolution decks is to get the full evolutions out to hit very hard, but Greninja is very much an ability-based deck. So, I mean, that's not the normal matchup that you would kind of face and you would kind of use Glaceon in. But, I mean, it's what we worked with, and we were still able to come out on top. So I count that as a win for us. And Jolteon even has... Okay, so my opponent will just Lysander. I'm forcing him to use his draw support for the turn on a Lysander, so that is just absolutely great. He does hit the Manectric for a good amount of damage, but you know what? That is just fine. You know why? Because 1, we have Rough Seas, and 2, we have Ultra Ball to get rid of the AZ, and a Regice to grab another Mega Manectric. There it is. Looks like 1 is prized. It's not a big deal. Just go ahead and play that there. Go ahead and retreat it into the Jolteon. Go for a Trainer's Mail. See what else there is. Another Rough Seas. I'm going to grab that just in case my opponent is able to counter our Stadium. And then let's just go for a Flash Ray to knock out this Joltik. And one kind of cool thing about Jolteon's Flash Ray is without a... well, even without a Fighting Fury Belt or Muscle Band, it knocks out a Fighting Fury Belt boosted Joltik. So, I mean, that's something that helps out with the Night March matchup a little bit. I mean, it seems like Mega Manectric is designed to take out the Pumpkaboos and stuff like that, and Jolteon is designed to take out the Joltiks and everything. So, I think we're just in too good of a position right now. My opponent could potentially knock out a Mega Manectric or something like that to get 2 prizes, but I do have the VS Seeker in hand. The reason I saved it last turn was for this exact situation, because my opponent would have to go for a Shaman in order to draw cards, because he'd be forced to waste a Lysander in order to be able to even hit me this turn, because I went for a Flash Ray with Jolteon. So Jolteon is just so great at just completely shutting down Night March. I mean, Night March needs those turns to use their supporters on draw support, but the fact that they have to use it on Lysander makes it just that much more, not that much more easier. Wow, me good at English. Just makes it that much easier of a matchup. And oh man, this is a great position to be in right now. It looks like my opponent is going to try to Lysander in the Mega Manectric on the bench in order to be able to knock it out, which not a big deal, because I do have a VS Seeker in hand that goes for a Lysander, which will knock out the Shaman and win me the game with, I mean, anything. I mean, there's no... unless my opponent can somehow, like, super scoop up his Shaman, I don't think there is a way for him to win, or to not win, but avoid losing next turn. And okay, my opponent is just battle compressing his deck down completely. He does have 7 Night Marchers, which actually is not a knockout on a regular Manectric. It only does 140, and my opponent even puts down another Shaman. Oh my goodness. He's really fishing for that Lysander to be able to knock out the Manectric. I do see the Fighting Fury Belt, and that's just fine. Throws it onto a Shaman, throws another one onto a Shaman, puts the Dimension Valley down. Kind of a mistake on his part, in my opinion, just because I will be able to counter that with Rough Seas next turn. And even with the Fighting Fury Belt, Shaman will not be able to survive a hit from Jolteon, but just to make sure my math is right. And there we go. Tries to Night March. It does not work. What I can just immediately do is go for a VS Seeker, and Lysander in the Shaman, retreat just to make sure something's not wonky about my math, and then go for a Turbo Bolt for double damage and a knockout and a win against Night March. Oh, I even get an Accelerated Energy. How nice. Let's throw it on a Manectric. Why not? And yeah, that will be the game. I mean, I could have played down the Rough Seas, but I mean, it was not ideal in that situation. And oh, of course, we end up with the only 2 spots, but it's not a big deal. We still end up winning, and that is the power of this deck. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. I enjoyed making and using this deck, so thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. And this is Styx, signing out. Why not? See you guys.